Word Dependent is about people and their journey with God, how He has impacted their lives, and how studying the Bible has shaped their relationship with Him. In this episode of Word Dependent, we talk with Anne-Marie Potemski. We discuss her journey in building a relationship with Jesus. We also talk with her about Anchor of Hope and learn about her servant's heart. Anne-Marie is a very busy woman. She runs a non-for-profit, and we're going to talk to her about that later. But first, Anne-Marie, thank you for being on Word Dependent. I appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Have you always been a Christian, or did you grow up in the Christian faith?
So I didn't. My faith walk has taken different paths, and so it's been a winding path that really has been guided by God.
When would you say that you came to a point where you knew Jesus was the one that you needed to save your soul, that you needed to be a part of your life?
So I would say some of those seeds were planted when Paul and I got married in 2000, and that's where being married in a church and that planning is where it was again growing stronger, and then through that we started attending church on a regular basis because it wasn't something we had to do, we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yet there were changes at the church, and I think as a younger believer, you're like, okay, when some stuff happens in the church, then you draw away, you step back, and you're like, well, maybe this isn't what I thought it was.
Yeah.
So then we started attending Polaris Church, and at Polaris is where I met a lot of amazing women. Mm-hmm. I attended a Bible study, first time ever, and that's where it was revealed that there is an opportunity to have a relationship, and it's so much different or more than what I thought it was, because before my thought was, well, it's going to church, once a week on Sunday, you put in your time and then you're done.
Right.
And then it was that, for lack of a better term, that revelation that it's more. And that's where I started to learn that it's more about having a relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
And so I would say it was at that time, which was probably about 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, That's cool. Do you recall, was it relevant? What were you studying that gave you that revelation?
So I don't recall the specific study, but it was women of the Bible.
Yeah.
And it was really what, their part, because many times as a woman, it's like, well, it's the men that are the preachers and the teachers, and you take a back seat. Yet it was all about the women in the Bible and their part in being doers. And that's where it was more of that inspiration that we're all created to do God's work, and just that opening of the eyes.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
Did you grow up hearing about God, or what was that like for you?
So I did. We, when my parents were both alive, and we were younger, we went to a Catholic church, and it was a chore, right? It was, my mom and dad gathering my two brothers and I, and we would get ready for church, and then we'd rush off to church. We'd be in church, and then we'd be leaving, and people are honking their horns and because they're trying to get out of there. I'm like, oh. So I went to church.
Yeah.
I heard about God and about Jesus, and it was this process. And it was this process in the Catholic Church that it was so methodical, right? Like I can go to, I'm like, well, I don't even need to go to church, right? Because I know that this is going to be the first reading, the second reading, the homily, and then yes, I learned the Lord's Prayer, but then it was just this process, and then I learned the process, and then It was like I was disengaged. Like it was like a chant, right? Like you
Yeah.
know, you would learn, you would say, and then my mind was somewhere else, right? I wasn't like I never learned how to pray.
Yeah.
I never learned how important it was to be, focused on what was being said, and then the relationships, because it truly was getting there, getting that hour in,
Yeah.
and then getting out.
Yeah.
It wasn't about building relationships, nothing about small group, small home groups
Yeah.
where you're getting connected, you're growing, you're helping one another. So I learned about God and Jesus in church, and again, it was I learned about it, but that's where it just ended.
Yeah.
Sounds like a job.
And it's sad to me because I do know people that are going to Catholic churches. That's where, like, they share a lot of that too, and then I see how they act or behave, and I just remember
Sure.
that when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Or it's those that go to church on Easter and on Christmas, and they've put they check the box.
Sure. They're fulfilled their duty for the time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just it too. It's not a duty. It's not an obligation. It's such a blessing to be able to go to church, and then all the benefits that you get when you really are engaged and connected in more than just that hour at church.
Yeah.
It it's your life goal, passion, and purpose to be in God's will and doing His will.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Have you ever had an experience, or what experience did you have? And you kind of already answered this, but what experience did you have that really grew your faith a lot?
So I would say that through the Bible study, that helped, and then I see it now, where through like just decades that God planted different men, women, and children in my life to reveal Himself and to just grow my faith.
Yeah.
And so whether it was a woman or women in a Bible study, whether it was an individual at church, because we've gone to a couple of different Christian or evangelical churches that have, again, helped me, whether it's through a study or what it was that we were doing, that again helped grow and really like kindle that spark, that interest, and that relationship. And then what I would say, I don't want to say more than anything, but what really has opened my eyes in such a mighty way is starting Anchor of Hope and the nonprofit. And the reason I say that is because I have been blessed, and I've seen so many blessings. And what has moved me to tears over and over and over is working with these families who have lost everything. The war has taken everything that they've worked for, everything that they ever had. And just seeing how devastated and broken they are, yet the fact that they have hope, and the fact that God is still working in a mighty way in their lives, and seeing the transformation and the gratitude that they have to be alive, and the fact that there is so much goodness and greatness despite what we see, because there is sin, there is darkness, there is brokenness, and we can focus on that. Yet I see so much more goodness and greatness, and I don't know if it's because I have blinders to some of the what's going on, like the bad, and I just keep on keeping on with what I can do and the goodness and greatness, and God has revealed Him in ways that I have never seen or imagined in the last few years.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is so cool.
What have you been learning about lately about God?
I would say
Like about His character. Yeah, go ahead.
That He is so good, so great, that even despite situations and circumstances, and this is where a lot of these families that we've served also continue to remind me that no matter how difficult things can be and how challenging they can be, that it's not like my timing, our timing, it's his timing and his plan. And he has shown that even when we are in the valley, even when we are broken, that he never leaves our side.
Yes.
He's there. So we may feel broken, we may feel alone, we may feel overwhelmed, and that everything is chaotic and out of our hands. Yet I have seen and I feel that, he's always there.
Right.
He's always there.
Right.
And that I have felt that even in those valleys, in those times where I just put my hand on, I don't know. And the Lord's like, you know what? You're taking this over. Let me have it. I've got this.
Yes.
And then, so he has shown that he's so great and that he never leaves us. He's always there despite whatever is going on, in our private lives, in our personal lives, in our professional lives.
Right. We've seen that too in our journey together, just repeatedly, how we hit a valley, but he has shown us how trustworthy he is again and again and again, that we'd be foolish at this point to not just simply trust him.
Right.
Because he has proven so much in such huge ways. He's got it, and we can trust him. He's faithful.
A lot of time people talk about being faithful to God, and the thing that makes me think of is how faithful God is to us.
Yep.
Yes.
Right.
You don't think of it that way, but God is extremely faithful to us.
He is.
Even when we're not.
Yeah.
Yes.
He still is.
Yes.
He doesn't
and
change.
when we walk away or when we choose our plan, our path, he still is always there.
Right.
Waiting.
Right.
And just like that, I think about the poem, and my mom had this too, where, footsteps.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Just when, you see the one set of footsteps and you think, you abandoned me? No, I carried you.
I was carrying you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? It's so true. It is.
So we mentioned that you run a non-for-profit. Can you tell us what Anchor of Hope is?
Yes. So Anchor of Hope, I started a little over 18 months ago, and our purpose and plan is to help individuals and families that are unhoused, that have had difficult situations and circumstances, that need some sort of resources, whether it is furniture, whether it is food, whether it's clothing. It's to be able to fulfill those immediate needs, which we've helped these individuals and families, yet it's also that longer term commitment to stay engaged with these families and help them. Because quite honestly, providing these families with furniture or that food, it's similarly to giving someone fish, right? I'm feeding them for that meal or for that day or for that time or for that season. Yet what I have, and this is what the Lord has placed on my heart, is to just that continuous and consistent connection and collaboration and checking in. It's teaching them how to fish in the ways that we can. And so it's that long-term advocacy for these individuals and families as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really what a missionary is. If you think about it, and we've got a lot of friends. We've talked to people on the podcast even that are missionaries, and one of the predominant ways that people are taught to be missionary is it's not you go for a year and then try to save some people and then move on. It's you're going to be here a while, and you're going to build relationships, and you're going to do life with these folks, and I think that's what God calls us to do.
Yes.
It's
I agree.
discipleship. Yeah. Absolutely. Can you tell us about the people and the families that you have helped, what their backgrounds are, what the situations are that they're coming from? Just give us a glimpse into that a little bit.
Sure. So I will do my very best to keep it together.
Yes.
So over the last 18 months, we're on our 95th family that we
Wow.
will be. I know.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Praise God, because
Right?
again, this is all. I just want to make a bold statement. This is all God.
Yep.
This is all God. So it's God bringing the families and God orchestrating everything and coordinating everything, because I would never be able to do this on my own.
Right. And work the full-time job that you have as well. Let's put that in there too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are on our 95th family, and we have served over 500 individuals, men, women, and children.
Wow.
And so, although our mission is individuals and families, the largest percentage of individuals and families that we've served have been Ukrainian families that have fled the war. They are here legally through the U4U program, which is the United States really bringing these families, through this program to be able to be here.
Yeah.
And what I have found and learned is that for these particular families, I assumed that when they're here through this government program and a sponsor supports them and brings them here, that the sponsor takes care of everything from getting the apartment to the furniture to food to getting their children set up in schools. And well, that hasn't always happened for many different reasons. Some of the reasons are that these are also Ukrainian families that were here that got established with some sort of small assets, whether it's a car or show some sort of credit. They can also sponsor a family, and these are other family members that they're bringing here. Their parents, their cousins, their aunts, their uncles that were abandoned and stranded there in Ukraine, and are bringing them here. And so knowing that when these families come here, many of them, they really would be walking into an empty apartment or home.
Yeah.
And so through connections, and again, it has been connections through a Ukrainian church that we've also taken families to and participated in and been very involved in, to whether it's Hope Church or other church members, family and friends that have made these connections. And as these families reach out, we have been able to provide them furniture, clothing, houseware items, whether it's a microwave, coffee maker, toasters, and in some instances help them with English classes and lessons, or direct them to ESL classes in their community, or again getting them connected with churches, or Hope Care Pantry, Hope Care's Pantry. It's beautiful to see how this connection has been. And so these families, some of them are families with a mother, father, and children. Some are young widows with children. Some are older widows that are here living in the community by themselves. And some are even young adults. When I say young adults, these are girls that are in their 20s that have come here because they've lost both of their parents and have come here for a new start and to be free from the war. So it's not a particular mold, because so many different sizes and shapes and ways of not way, but different types of family groups and individuals.
Would you say that of those that you are serving in this way, that many of them are believers? Do you clearly, it's very clear that you see God's hand in all of this, that God is at work orchestrating all of this. I guess what I'm wondering is, do they see that too? Do they recognize that?
So this is interesting, and I'm glad you asked this question, because when we're first meeting the families, I don't know these individuals.
Right.
And so when you think about, I am a complete stranger. And I am walking into, along with other volunteers and individuals that have helped, walking into an apartment or a home that they don't know me from Adam.
Right.
And so we're walking in, And then as we're bringing in the furniture and bringing in these items, they are so overwhelmed. And when they are thanking me, I immediately, I say, you're welcome. And know that this is not me. This is God who has orchestrated everything, and He has provided this. And let me introduce you to some churches that you can also go to.
Right.
And for the Ukrainian individuals, I recommend a Ukrainian church so they feel a community,
Absolutely.
a connection
Right.
with
Absolutely.
other believers.
Absolutely.
And what is amazing is that almost all of these families, especially those that really didn't have a faith foundation, they are going to this Ukrainian church.
Praise God.
Yes,
That's awesome,
absolutely. And I've even seen this at the ESL class at Hope Church.
Yeah.
When we're teaching ESL class
Yeah.
on Thursday evenings, planting the seed. So we've helped some of these widows because of the ESL class. I met them and then found out that they have nothing in their apartment. And so we've also helped these
Wow.
women and these families.
Wow.
And then invited them to church.
Yeah.
And introduced them to other families so it is just, it's so beautiful that we walk in as complete strangers
Right.
into these apartments and homes. And I don't want to say that we're best or friends when we're leaving, but they feel a calmness. They feel this hope that, you know what? Like, we can make it. We can do this. And I'm hoping that they feel that it's God
Yeah.
that's giving them
Yeah.
the hope, not me.
Yeah.
But yet those seeds of hope are being planted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
It's so wonderful. Oh,
What are some difficulties you face with Anchor of Hope?
So we have several challenges and difficulties, and I would also say that in a small group study that I'm a part of now. So I'm going to just go chase the squirrel for a second,
yeah.
and then I'll be back. So what I have found is in these, like when we were talking about valleys or when there are difficulties, I feel that it is, and I'm going to speak for me over the last few years with Anchor of Hope, I feel that that's a way that Satan uses that as an opportunity to get his foot in the door and get this stronghold, because it can become overwhelming.
Yeah.
It can, and then that's when I start questioning.
yeah.
Is this the right, should I keep on keeping on? Is this the right thing to keep doing? Am I doing it the right way? And so then I start questioning, I think, is the best way. And so that has also drawn me closer to the Lord, in that's when I just need to just pause and pray, because there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And it could be easy to give up. And that's where I also have felt that God reminds me over and over and over, you're not doing this alone.
Yes.
I'm by your side. We've got this. And it's not time to give up. You're going to keep on keeping on. And maybe you're not going to do this for the rest of your life. There's a way to serve, and maybe it is always through Anchor of Hope. Maybe there are other options, but right now it's going to continue through Anchor of Hope. And so going back to the question on difficulties, there have been several, because the need is so great. It can become overwhelming, because I do not always have the resources, the volunteers, the items that individuals and families need.
Yeah.
I do not have a centralized warehouse space building, which is really what I need to be able to be more efficient and productive, in addition to having a vehicle that would also help with the deliveries. And so that's where the need is great, to have a centralized space, to also have the vehicle, and just having volunteers and resources. And yet, so those are some of the challenges, because by not having a centralized space, my garage is packed to the gills and I can't even walk through it.
Right.
Our pole barn is packed.
Yes.
I have a storage unit that's packed. I have items that are at individuals' homes that are kind enough because they know my heart, they know and have been involved and have seen the impact that this has made on families. So they're storing items. So we are in desperate need of a space just to be efficient and organized. So getting everything in, and similarly to a home that has everything organized so that you know where everything is in your kitchen, in each of the cabinets, or in your bedroom.
Right.
And so that's what my prayer and my goal is, to be able to have this type of space so that we can be efficient and organized. So that challenge, God willing, would be eliminated.
Right.
And then a vehicle that we wouldn't have to rent U-Hauls or trailers, because when it's -12 like it has been in the evenings, or 1 degree like it is now, and snowing or raining, it makes it very hard to transport furniture and items. So I'm continuing to pray that when the time is right, we would have that vehicle to be able to also do this more efficiently, and selfishly, I would say, just easier for me and for us.
Right. So if, say, somebody listening to the podcast was like, well, I have space, or I have a truck or a van or whatever, how would they get a hold of you? How would they find out more about Anchor of Hope?
Sure. So they can go on the website, but really the best or easiest way would be to call me.
Yep.
And it would be on my cell phone, and that number is 330-241-7091.
Perfect.
Nice.
Thank you.
So if you have those things, call.
Yep. And in the meantime, Anne-Marie, we join you in that prayer that God
absolutely
would provide those things for you to continue serving Him, to continue serving these people in these amazing ways.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you're willing, if you're not, that's totally fine. But you shared with me early on a story from quite some time ago, where your family and another family was connected. Poland, I believe. Do you know the story that I'm referring to?
Well, I think so, but do you have the question?
Well, the question is if you would be willing to share that story, because if I recall correctly, there was a situation where your family over in Poland at the time got connected. And I'm going to mess up the story, but they ended up coming over, and now you are helping their family, or have helped.
So I know the story.
Okay.
And thank you for asking, because actually this is how Anchor of Hope really got started. And so to just share at a high level the story. So yes, my family is still in Okocim, which is a small little village, and this is again another perfect example of God's plan and how He helps orchestrate and connect all the dots.
Yes.
So with my cousins living in Okocim, when the war started, Poland is amazing in that the country opened up to all of the Ukrainian families that were coming in. And my cousins were very passionate about helping families in any way they could. They would go to the train station, because a lot of they would go to the train station and drop off baby buggies and carriages and strollers and these types of items, because so many of the families, when they were fleeing, they had a suit, each of the family members had a suitcase, and they had a stroller, and babies, and they wanted to leave as quickly as possible. So when they were getting on the trains, they're like, nope, can't take the suitcases, you may take one, you can't take strollers because it's taking room. They wanted to fill up the trains with as many people, not personal items.
Sure.
So these families were coming to the train stations with young babies and didn't have anything. So they were part of this again, plan, and these doers that were going and helping in that way. And so then the little village also opened up, and were opening up their homes to families that were coming in. And so everyone had a different type of commitment.
Yeah.
Some said, I will take a family for a couple of days. And that way they can, because some of these families were reaching out to others in Europe that had
Sure.
families, and they just needed a few days to be able to take a shower, to be able to have food, be able to lay their, children down to sleep. But their plan was to move to their other families in wherever country that was. Others didn't know where they would be going, so they needed a couple of weeks or a couple of months. And so everyone got together and they said, okay, I'm going to take families that are a couple days. I will take families for a couple of weeks or months. And so my family said, I will help for months or however long. And the family, there were 10 families in this village, because it ended up being longer term, said that they would help support. Because this village is small,
Yeah.
my family is not wealthy,
Yeah.
these families are not wealthy, but yet they said yes. They said, yes, I'm going to raise my hand and I'm going to help however I can help.
Yeah.
And so this particular family, Father Sasha, Mother Irena, and their 2 children, Margareta, who was 11 at the time, and Władysław, who was 9, they said, we will help. And they came together and helped provide for them to be able to live in the home, to be able to have food, clothing, and all this, because they were one of the families that came there with nothing.
Yeah.
And so they very quickly became family.
Yeah.
They loved on this family. And what happened is, about a year after the war started, it became more difficult for Sasha and even Irena to find work. And so with that, they were looking for, where would they go?
Yeah.
And they found a sponsor here in the United States. And so my cousin reached out to me via video chat and asked Paul and I if we would help this family, which had become their family. They said they're coming to Ohio. I said, great.
Yes.
Where in Ohio? Is it Cincinnati, Toledo, Cleveland?
Right.
And she said, well, we'll find out, but can you help them? I said, yes, we will help them. It will really help me if we know where.
Right.
And so again, this is all part of God's plan, because they ended up in Parma. And
my
so I found out, I said, well, do you know where they're going to be staying? We got the name of the sponsor. I will give you his name and number. If you can connect with him and just, and help. And so it was very emotional, because we ended up, the family was there.
Yeah.
And so they just said, if you can please just, get a kitchen table and chairs for the family, maybe beds for the children so they can have something. And we didn't know when they were coming, because, again, this is all part of the learning process. You find out just sometimes only a few days or a few weeks before your papers are approved and you're able to leave through the program. And so we found out that they would be in Parma. I said, this is great. I got the name of the sponsor and his telephone number, and then they found out that they would be here in 2 weeks. Well, I was leaving for a business trip. Paul was gone. And so, again, this is where I thought, this is, I started to think.
This is crazy, huh?
Yes. I don't feel that it's going to be possible. Like, I made a commitment to help.
Right.
And how am I going to help this family that's coming here in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
I'm gone for a week. This was actually in January 2 years ago. It was very cold. We had mild winters, but it just happened to be very, very, very cold the 2 weekends. So this is where, again, I fervently was praying, and I just reached out to all of my family and friends. And again, this is where God has been so faithful, even when we're not fully trusting, even when we say that, God, I'm praying, I know you've got this, but then there's like this seed of doubt.
Yeah.
There was no question at all, because God answered thousands of prayers in those 2 weeks, because through just family and friends, we were able to get and have just this amazing welcome for this family that I could have never orchestrated on my own.
Right.
And so this family thought that they would be walking into their apartment, to an empty apartment.
Yeah.
And even on my business trip, like when I was in the evenings just checking, my messages and all this, so it was so beautiful because between neighbors, family, friends, their whole apartment was furnished.
Awesome.
Their whole apartment, from a kitchen table and chairs to their refrigerator, their freezer, all of their cabinets stocked with food, dishes, glasses, anything and everything that you need for your kitchen, there.
Yeah.
Each of the children had a bed with pillows and comforter, and we got them a 4-foot stuffed animal on the bed, and toys and games and puzzles. Their closets were full, and same for the parents. Their bathroom, shower curtain, toilet paper, shampoo, conditioner, toothbrushes, toothpaste. So they truly could walk in, they could have dinner, have meals,
Yes.
and then be able to sleep
Yes.
comfortably.
Yes.
And be able to clean up after they traveled for 2 days.
Yeah.
So just to be able to truly peacefully sleep. And so not only was that coordinated, the village with the family that took care of them, my family, it was a 6-hour time difference. They came in at 7 p.m.,
Yeah.
which is, if you look, 6 hours,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So that is it, very late
Yeah.
in the morning hours the next day for my family and all the other families. So we had a video conference. So my girlfriend came with us. She videotaped the family coming into the door with the sponsor and all the family members. Paul had my family and all the rest. We set up a WhatsApp with all the families. So they were all at 1:30, and by this time it's like 1:30 in the morning. They were all on to experience this too. And when and we brought our dog. Why not make it that much more personal? So Amelia was with us. And so when they walked in, there was a warm meal on the table, a candle was lit, and Amelia greets them at the door. And so they're walking in. So Sasha, like he actually turned around, like he thought he was walking, like he turned around because he thought he was walking into someone's
I
apartment.
thought you was in the wrong place, yeah.
Yes. And so then the sponsors, like, no, like, this is your apartment. And I didn't even know him. Like, he came over to me and he starts weeping because he said, we were supposed to walk into an empty apartment. And he's like, I can't even believe this. And he was over, like, why would you do this? Why would you do this for me? You don't know me. You don't know my family. You said you would help try to get a bed, try to get some things. But this is unbelievable. And to see a grown man with his wife and children on his knees, weeping, so overwhelmed with emotion, was so humbling to me, and just reaffirmed how important it is, similarly to what Jesus did when he was a servant and everything that he did for us, how we are called to be servants and to do for others. And that is what really just spearheaded all of this, and thus the name Anchor of Hope. And that's also, the name was not even was available, right?
Yeah.
But hope, just to have a foundation of hope, because without hope, it's difficult to keep on keeping on. And when you have hope, even that little hope, it gives you the opportunity and inspiration to not give up. To not give up for yourself, not to give up for your wife, not to give up for your children, to just keep on keeping on. And that's where it just was such a humbling experience for me, for my husband Paul, and even for my friend Melody, who was there.
Yeah.
It was such an amazing experience. And the fact that God orchestrated this, not in months, not in years, but in 2 weeks, just connected everything, was absolutely amazing. And that's where, without a doubt, I knew that this, God's hand was in it. He was in all of this. And that's where I also felt, because for years, I really wanted to start a nonprofit. I talked about starting a nonprofit, and I was always on the ledge, on the edge.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it, and there was always something, I
Right,
can't
but-
do this. Someone who's smarter,
Right.
someone who's more organized,
Right.
someone who's got it all together. They can do it. They've done it. They can do it. And it's also taught me that through this, I don't have it all together. I don't have all the answers, and I don't always even have all the resources. Yet, God has provided the path, the process, the way. As long as I continue to trust and believe that He is by my side, and it's going to be His timing, His plan, it always works out.
Absolutely.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your story, and I hope that people listening will have the heart that you show,
Yeah.
that you have.
Well, thank you. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it. And again, I appreciate you thanking me, but I thank God, because He has truly made all this possible. And I also pray, similarly to what I've been praying on a daily basis, and even here now, I will say again, that I just pray that individuals will be inspired to be more than hearers, but to be doers.
Yes.
Because God has gifted all of us with different talents. Not one of us looks the same, is the same, has the same talent, and we can all help in different ways. And I just pray that individuals will just take a moment to pause and pray, and just be courageous enough to take action
Yes.
to help in the way that God has gifted them to help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What an encouragement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Thank you.
Thank you to Anne-Marie for sharing her story with us. If you like hearing stories of people walking with Jesus, please consider following Word Dependent and listening to our other episodes. There are some great stories. We publish a new story every 2 weeks. Thank you for listening to Word Dependent.